What's up in War Eagle War Report family? You got Ike Jones. We are here with another morning drop. Today we're talking about the quarterback position here at Auburn. We already know who QB1 is, but let's talk about how we think that's going to play out over this season. Y'all know how we do right here, War Report style. Let's drop it on them.
You are now listening to the War Report.
Morning drop here on a Wednesday morning. Today is Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
It's Wednesday, August 23rd. I lose track of days all the time. August 23rd. We're here talking a little bit of Auburn quarterback Peyton Thorne, QB1. QB2, we're assuming Robbie Ashford right now from how Coach Freeze is talking about. Holden Gerner in there making his bid to get a little bit of playing time. Mike G, what are we feeling about the quarterback room and all the things that make the engine of the Coach Hugh Freeze Montgomery system work?
Yeah, I think Hugh Freeze got his guy, right? Like, he went out, he brought Peyton Thorne in. This is where he wants to set the floor. I think it was a success, too. I think bringing him in was a success for his quarterback room. It caused the other two to raise their game. And Hugh Freeze has said it, and a lot of people think it's coach speak, but I don't think we've gotten a ton of coach speak from Hugh Freeze.
Right.
He's got guys he feels like he can win with. He understands that he can win differently with Robbie Ashford. He's called him different. He said some things about him, but ultimately, you hope your plan A stays your plan A if you're Hugh Freeze, and that everybody else is ready in case plan B is needed.
Yeah. Listen, it is going to be a thing this season. I just wonder how quickly the whispers are going to start, not for benching anybody, but just for seeing the presence of other quarterbacks on this roster. Coach Hugh Freeze has said on multiple occasions, Robbie's going to play. We've got some packages we want. So I don't think that there's any worry about whether or not Robbie Ashford's going to get an opportunity to check into a football game and make a difference on Saturdays. The question I have is, how often are we going to see young Holden Gerner this season? Because people have been salivating over the arm talent that everybody's talking about. Oh, he's got one of the best arms, best arm in the room. He's the A-Day quarterback. I mean, not A-Day, excuse me, the pro day quarterback. Like, everybody was just Holden Gerner hype out of the offseason. How often, how many games do you think Holden Gerner sees duty this season?
If things go as planned, likely zero.
So you don't think he takes any snaps at all?
No, not unless there's an injury. I mean, he finished third in this race. This was the sad reality of this race, is whoever finished third was probably going to transfer. Now, and that's assuming that everybody stays healthy. So, for him to see time, I think I said, Robbie has to be hurt or almost incapable at this point. But it's pretty clear that Hugh Freeze has chosen experience, right, over potential, at least in year one. So, for Holden, the sad reality of that is that he may not see much time this year. And I hate to say that. I think he's super talented, and I just don't see the world in which he gets a serious shot at any playing time. Zach asked me this question as well too. Shout out to our guy over at Locked On Auburn. But ultimately, I don't think you waste a lot. I don't know, man. I don't think Robbie Ashford is experienced enough to waste a chance to get him additional in-game reps. And how much does it help you to start giving some of those reps to Holden, knowing that Robbie may be your next up? I don't know. I don't think Hugh Freeze is really considering that right now. I think he's got a plan A with Peyton Thorne and a plan B with Robbie Ashford, and right now Holden is plan C. So I don't know how many programs is a third string getting significant time. Now listen, if there were a game, it'd be UMass. Our guys over the Up Tempo talk about how bad that team is. And, maybe it's 60-0 by the end of the third quarter and you bring Holden in. But I do feel like Hugh Freeze is going to want to see what Robbie Ashford can do with significant time, and taking that time away from him might be doing a disservice to yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, we will definitely see how it plans out for young Holden as far as the season is concerned. A lot of things yet to be sorted out. Like you said, you don't know what's going to happen with people's play and or injury. But, as it stands right now, it does look like he is going to be third. It's going to be interesting as well to see the rest of the team, how the two deep, which I expect to be coming out at some point this week, is going to be. But we'll take more look at this particular quarterback room in just a minute. We want you guys to continue to do what you do and help us get the word out. Share the video at the War Report on social media. Hashtag get your weight up. Make sure you're going ahead and giving us a thumbs up, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We got a lot of great things coming up. If you're not a member, just as a reminder, you won't be able to get in on the UMass tickets because we've already shut that down. But we give away tickets to every home game. And so make sure you get your membership active. Need to be a patron in order to get on board with the ticket giveaways this season. So make sure you've got that membership active as we do our giveaways coming into this season. All right. Let's take a look at the quarterback room, though. All of the members of the room as it stands right now. Interestingly, this year, every year they have a travel roster, right? So they have the guys who can travel with the team for the Cal game that has been upped because it's a non-conference across the country situation that can be 75. And for SEC home games, you get 70 guys on your travel roster. Question for you, Mike G, is how many of these quarterbacks do you expect to see on the travel roster? I'll go through the names and while you think about that question, but how many quarterbacks do you think we're going to take on the travel roster? Starting here at the top, Peyton Thorne, 6'2", 203 junior, the transfer from Michigan State, already named as QB1 for game 1 versus UMass. Next, we have Robbie Ashford. And just for those wondering, this just happens to be the way the jersey numbers work out. This is not in order of depth chart. It's just Peyton Thorne's number 1, Robbie Ashford's 9, Holden's 12. Like, it just works out in the numbers. So every one of these graphics that we've been doing about the different rooms, it's by their position, their number on their jersey, not by how we think they're going to play. Anyway, Robbie Ashford, the 6'3", 218 sophomore, previous transfer from Oregon. Holden Gerner, 6'3", 212 redshirt freshman. Hank Brown, 6'4", 201 freshman. Sawyer Pate, 6'1", 219 sophomore. Jackson Barkley, 6'2", 205 sophomore. And John Colvin, 6'3", 192. That kid needs to get his weight up. Freshman there, walk on for Auburn. But back to the question at hand. Traveling quarterbacks, how many do you think they're going to take on the road with them?
I think you take at least 3. For certain. Honestly, I think Hank Brown makes the trip.
Okay. I think Hank Brown makes the trip to Cal for sure. I don't know if he goes on the SEC ones, but I think Hank Brown makes the trip to Cal.
Yeah, I think Hank Brown makes the trip. Backup quarterbacks have sideline responsibilities as well too. And yeah, I can't see them taking fewer than 4. I mean, the last thing you want to do is be in a position where disaster absolutely strikes you on the road. It doesn't happen often, but if in my book, I think you would need 4 quarterbacks. How many times have we seen 3 quarterbacks get hurt in the game? It doesn't happen often.
Doesn't happen very much, yeah.
But like, you don't want to be sitting there on your 3rd quarterback for some reason, knowing there's no plan behind him at all. So I think Hank Brown makes the trip. Most road games.
Yeah, listen, I'm not even mad at that. I haven't gone through and tried to piece together a travel roster of my own, but I will maybe I'll take a shot at it after we see the 2 deep and see kind of how we want to have that rotational depth along a lot of the positions that we're going to need. The Swiss Army knife guy that is Gunnar Britton, as Coach Hugh Freeze like to call him, he says he can play him at a multiple of positions. He's already played it a lot. Is going to be someone who I am interested to see, how they factor that into offensive line depth when they're traveling, because if you got a guy that you can move to several different spots, A lot of those guys along the interior are flexible in how they can move around to different places along the offensive line. So that's going to help in some places. Defensive line, same way. Defensive backfield, same way. You've got guys who could cross over and play at different positions. So it's going to be interesting to see how they put those rosters together. But what is certain for me is that our quarterback room is talented, right? So you've got Peyton Thorne here, who is, again, the already announced starter for game one, 6'2", 203. And then you look at guys like Robbie Ashford, Holden Gerner, 6'3" and 6'3", 218 and 212, man. These are some big kids playing quarterback out here for Auburn. They're going to need to be able to stand up to some punishment because, listen, defensive lines and pass rushing units here in the SEC are not to be taken lightly. So anticipate a little bit of pain being dished out to the quarterback, which means that they're going to have to figure out how to get the ball out of their hands quickly, how to do something to make sure that those guys stay upright. Because if we're being honest, the offensive line is still a work in progress, despite the talent upgrade. They're still trying to figure out how to play as a unit and figure out how to be dominant. And even in domination, your quarterback's going to get hit sometimes.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is why Hank Brown's got to get his weight up. 201, that's not enough, big boy.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a master manipulator of the pocket, like if you can move in the pocket and you can find a way to avoid, big hits, I think you'll be fine back there. Ultimately, you've got 3 pocket passers and a mobile guy. Like, listen, Holden is an underrated athlete. He can move a little bit when needed. And we saw the same from Thorne at Michigan State. He can get outside the pocket at times and make some things happen with his legs, but that's not their game at all. And so you have to be able to sustain hits in this league, or you're going to find yourself in trouble, I think.
Right.
Same for Robbie. Even though he's playing heavier, man, the injury bug has not avoided him either. So,
yeah.
He told us on the fireside that he didn't hurt his shoulder on that attempted block.
Right.
But certainly, with as much as he ran the ball, he opened himself up to a lot of injury. So I think all these guys would prefer to stay in the pocket, most of the time and only use their legs when needed. When you take a hit, man, I don't know. We've heard great things about the strength and conditioning program. I just wonder, we got a chance to talk to him. What is this something that they deal with quarterbacks when they talk about, hey, what weight are you going to play at? What's going to happen the first time you get sacked? I'm not sure that's a thing for quarterbacks.
Right.
But I would be interested to talk to strength and conditioning coach and see what his thoughts were on that.
Yeah, if Coach Dom, if you're listening out there, the War Report is requesting you to come on, talk a little strength and conditioning, how you are helping these athletes get their weight up. This is the place to talk about all of that. So go ahead and lock in with you guys at the War Report so we can make that happen. But listen, not a ton of snaps in this quarterback room, if we're being honest. Only the first 2 guys have ever played any significant snaps. Holden Gerner came in for 8 plays, I think he has total in his collegiate career against Missouri. That he just hasn't played a ton of football. So there isn't a ton of experience to really lean on if you need to be able to do that. How much of a factor, and I think you've already answered this a little bit, but we'll revisit it. How much of a factor do you think that plays in this depth chart?
I don't know.
I mean, you've already said you think that, Coach Freeze has kind of prioritized the experience over the potential of a Holden Gerner in this situation. You think that that's really the major separating factor is like, hey, man, these guys have just, at least I've seen them play in a collegiate game, so I trust them a little bit more. Or here's and this might be a little bit of a hot take. Do you think that there is a potential for, if Holden makes it clear, hey, if I'm not going to play this year, then I'm just going to look elsewhere, does he lean more towards grooming Hank Brown as the successor there?
Experience matters. Experience certainly matters. And I think that Hugh Freeze, I think year 1 is going to be very different for him than year 2. In year 1, you've got all this recruiting momentum and you've got to take a team that you put together from high school and the portal over 50%, right? And go out and win games. After year one, personally, I think all bets are off. The grooming that you're talking about, I think you're grooming everybody after year one. But if you don't have a guy who comes out of this year as the undisputed guy for next year, it's a free for all to see who gets the job. That's me personally, because you would have had two guys with tons of experience not play up to snuff, I guess. Mm-hmm. Right? And then you got these promising new freshmen coming in. There's a lot of hype on the Walker White train right now.
Right.
Does does Hank Brown kind of develop? I mean, I just think unless somebody is an 8-win quarterback this year, next year is a free for all. Personally, and the experience, I think he values experience, but man, once he starts bringing in his guys, that levels out a little bit.
Yeah. I think I think definitely once you get a little bit more comfort in installing your system, and there are more guys around the quarterback who have been in the system a little bit longer, you can start to try to get into more of a prioritization of potential because you have more guys that can help that quarterback out. That experience matters, I think, a lot more when everybody's new and you need the guy who's piloting the plane to have a little bit more experience and ability to be cool under pressure, seeing what it's like on a college football Saturday hostile environment. That's one thing that you can definitely say about both Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford. They have played on the road against the biggest rival for that school, and they know what it's like to be able to be in that environment and it not go right. Peyton Thorne's at least seen it go right at least once in his career, right? Playing against Michigan. They've won that game and lost that game in his tenure at Michigan State. But both of them been on the road, tough college environments, hostile environments, seen it already. That's something that nobody else on this roster at quarterback can say.
Yeah, absolutely. How valuable is that experience, right?
Yeah.
If you're a quarterback, if you're Robbie Ashford, you got your ass kicked in the Iron Bowl last year.
Yeah.
How valuable is that? If you're Peyton Thorne, you've played versus Michigan. You played in these big rivalry games. How valuable is that experience? If you're Holden, you've seen it, but it's different when you're the starter, man. Like, it's so funny. Like if you're on a team that wins the Super Bowl, everybody gets a ring. But nobody says the backup quarterback won a Super Bowl.
Right.
He has a Super Bowl ring, but he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Right.
Right. So, it's again, I think it's just different when you're the guy in the seat, getting the experience, understanding what it takes to win. Because you can't do that from the bench.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what makes what those guys have so valuable in my book.
Yeah, but I think what I like about this room is I see a lot of talent here, and I see that we have the ability for years to come. You've talked about this multiple times of being able to have a plan of succession at quarterback if we're able to hold on to all of this talent that's here. The rough thing about this is the number of years of eligibility that are left for a lot of these guys, right? Like Peyton Thorne could come back for next season. He has another year of eligibility after this. Robbie Ashford has multiple years of eligibility left. Holden Gerner, redshirt freshman, he's got a ton of eligibility left, right? But because the guys in front of him, speaking of Holden right now, have so much eligibility, is he going to want to wait around to, really it probably is going to be 2, maybe even 3 years until his senior year to be able to take over and be the heir apparent when you've got Hank Brown, Walker White, whoever's going to be the next guy coming in right after you. That's going to be a difficult task. And I'll be interested to see kind of how that plays out over this season and going into the off season.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So we are stacked at quarterback, and you know what else is stacked? Stacks Pancake Kitchen in Auburn. Stacks Pancake Kitchen is the newest downtown destination for breakfast, brunch, and lunch. Stacks has creative local offerings for everyone, serving a full menu of all-day meals. You never miss out on their signature pancake stacks, sophisticated French toast offerings, or some good old-fashioned Southern biscuits and gravy. Or jump right into lunch with fresh patted burgers, shrimp and grits, or an array of sandwiches cooked to order. Handcrafted cocktails and coffees make the meal extra special. And get this, they will have an outside bar for Auburn football games this season, so you can walk by, get a drink, and watch Auburn play. It'd be nice to do that on one of those away games specifically. So if you're in the Auburn area and you want to check out the game somewhere with the rest of the Auburn family, you can stop by Stacks Pancake Kitchen in Auburn, located at 145 East Magnolia Avenue in Auburn, Alabama. And they are available for online ordering, catering, and private events. Their website, www.stacks.com. Auburn. That's STAKS, stacksauburn.com. Make sure you guys tell them that the War Report sent you. We are going to go over here into our
Pancake Kitchen.
unbelievably stacked comment section over here with the great War Report family and see what you all are talking about this morning, right here on the Morning Drop, brought to you by rogueshop.com. We're going to get it kicked off with Daniel Owen, who says, this season is so close. I'll shamefully be one of those anxiously awaiting week 0 games. Mike G, you posted on Twitter earlier this week the schedule of week 0 games. Off subject, but just because Daniel Owen brought it up, which games are you looking forward to seeing in week 0 coming up here? We'll talk a little bit more about this tonight, but since we're here, week 0 games this Saturday, which ones are you looking forward to watching?
Definitely going to have an eye on that UMass game. Listen, our guys over at the Uptempo noted they're bad. They're not good. But just how not good are they? Well, that's going to be important because Auburn should roll over that team, Isaac. And if they don't, I think that, there will be some things they need to go back and look at for sure. Yeah. But they should be able to execute the base form of their offense and beat that team. Vandy is another one that I'm going to be taking a look at.
Yeah.
I kind of said earlier this summer that I didn't think that would be a complete pushover game. So seeing how they open up will be interesting to me. And then lastly, I'm going to be watching USC San Jose State. I kind of want to see how Caleb Williams follows up. Yeah, I mean, in the form. All right, I have access to watch it. Right. So I'm going to be watching Caleb Williams to see how he follows up his Heisman campaign. I think that'll be interesting to watch. A lot of people ask me if I think he repeats, and I said no. But
it's difficult to repeat as a Heisman.
It really is,
and I don't know how he would possibly do that. I mean, if he's going to do it, the Pac-12 is a place to do it because they don't have enough defense out there to stop anybody.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be difficult. I don't even really have a beat on who is going to be the Heisman guy, but I'm a big fan of Drake May over there at North Carolina. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does in year 2. So he would be my guy I would look at from the quarterback position. Anyway, continue. Week 0 games.
That's it, man. Those are the games I'm looking at, right? So Vandy, UMass, USC.
Yeah, listen, with the Vandy game, you get an opportunity to watch 2 teams that Auburn will be playing. So it's Vandy versus, not Vandy game, but the UMass game. It's UMass versus New Mexico State, if I'm not mistaken. So that's 2 teams that Auburn will play later on. So you'll have an opportunity to see both of those in their first game of the season. And then, of course, Vanderbilt is on Auburn's schedule. Those are the ones that I personally will be checking out. The rest of those games might not get very much of my attention just because I really don't care about any of those other teams. Jonathan Boyson jumps in and says, from Freeze's comments, this is the most confident I felt about our QB room in a long time. Thoughts on that, Mike G, and the confidence level in being able to trot out a quarterback? Injuries be damned. We've got a guy we can throw in there at least in the top 3.
Yeah. I think that this is the first offseason in a while that I believed in the quarterback race. And that, every guy was given a shot and, that this coach will make adjustments as needed. So I feel good about the QB coach. I would say. I feel good about the QB coach and the evaluation and plan for the QBs. So, I was happy to hear Hugh Freeze say that he's got a plan for Peyton Thorne. And naming him early, I thought was a smart move
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of different ways. Instead of dragging it out until the week of, and then that Wednesday saying we decided to go Peyton Thorne to try to sell to everybody. I think naming him early was a really good plan, right? And we'll see how he performs, but I'm more confident in the QB and the guys in charge of the QBs. And we'll see how the QBs play, man. It's a lot of variables out there for them.
Yeah. I am definitely in the same boat of I think that it was the right decision to go ahead and name Peyton Thorne the starting quarterback for all of the reasons he's already listed. And I also agree with the fact that he's like, hey, if Peyton Thorne doesn't play well, then we'll look at some. He is not committed to a bad decision if it looks like a bad decision. I know people are going to hear me say that and think that I'm thinking that that's a bad decision. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that I think for the first time, good Lord, a coach is not stuck on this is the guy I chose, so let's ride with him. And he's not stuck on it for the reasonings that he actually has confidence in the other guys in the room. So he
Facts.
can make a decision to pivot in a different direction. And to your point, Mike G, though we felt like that going into seasons before based upon the rhetoric of the coach, this time I think it's actually true.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very confident in the QB developer. And that's what Auburn needed, man. They needed a guy who could find someone at QB because, man, when they've been able to develop at that position or find a guy at that position, it's been championship run time. So that should be exciting for fans.
Yeah. To echo some of what we're talking about as far as Coach Freeze and what he's been saying publicly, Corey
Agreed.
Weber says Freeze is the most honest coach I've ever heard at Auburn.
I agree with that. Like, like people are like, "Oh, Coach Speak." I was like, I don't think he's done in all our time covering this coach these last 8 months. I don't think he's done a ton of Coach Speak.
Yeah,
honestly, yeah. I don't think that's who he is.
Yeah, and listen, we have been critiqued for our stances about some of the things that he's come out and said publicly in regard to how it will impact players on the team. What I will say is that at least he was being honest with them. At least whatever he said publicly, he actually felt. He says certain things to motivate guys for sure, but he's not saying it in hyperbole. Like, this is how I feel. This is what, and a lot of what he's saying publicly, he's saying to them privately as well. Right. So, and this is coming from talking to guys and understanding kind of what happens in the locker room and the culture of things. Coach Freeze is being honest with how he feels about these things. And you can take it as coach speak if you want to. I don't think the players do. And I don't think that he's saying it as coach speak. So I think that's my perception of it. People are welcome to think differently about that. But I think that he's being honest and genuine with how he feels and what he says about how he feels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dana Jones jumps in and says, I feel like Holden has to get at least a few snaps to get a little experience in case he has to come in for whatever reason.
Yeah. I don't know if I agree. But we'll see. We'll see how he decides to manage it.
John Brannon jumps in. I don't think Holden will leave, in my opinion. Doesn't think Holden transfers out of Auburn.
Something has to change.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Yeah,
again,
the status quo can't hold, and he stay right. Like,
yeah, we've already looked at the QB room and the experience that's there, a number of eligibility. It's a. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bleak picture looking for him to get on the field anytime soon.
Yeah, experience is going to factor into this. I just don't see how he catches up without actually getting the experience. So,
Yeah.
That means guys in front of him either playing so poorly that he has to come off the bench or guys getting hurt, which we hope never happens, really. So it's just, I don't know. I think he deserves a shot, to play behind a decent offensive line as a pocket passer. I don't know. If you're holding at some point, you cannot just continue to burn eligibility hoping they're going to give you a shot. And you come from a program like Auburn, maybe going to a place where there is a QB battle, and maybe if it's not that coach's first year. And like, I mean, I just think there's a lot of things that factor into this that maybe don't have a ton to do with Holden.
Yeah.
But man, he played well. He played well this camp, and he still finished third.
Right.
In this race. So if you're him and you believe that you played well, and the other guys are that talented, then it might be in your best interest to go someplace else. I want to see him play.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him waste away on the bench and never get a shot. He's way too talented for that.
Yeah, I hope he gets an opportunity to be able to play. To your point, I don't want that to become an injury situation where he's thrust into duty, but I do want to see him get his opportunity to play because I do think he's supremely talented. I've been saying that since he got here. This isn't a new tune that we're talking about Holden and his talent, but he's got to get an opportunity, to your point, to show it on the field in order to be able to make some people believers in what he has and whether or not it translates to a game day type situation. So hopefully Holden will get that chance. War Dam Dad 95 says Peyton had 3,200 with a good running game. Hot take: Thorne will break the all-time passing yards for a single season, regardless of Robbie's role. So he thinks that he breaks the record here at Auburn, which is not a high bar, let's be clear, to be able to do, but thinks that he does that regardless of what role Robbie Ashford plays in this offense this season. Thoughts on this hot take here?
3,200 is prolific at Auburn. It is prolific. I think he's certainly capable of that. We'll see. I mean, like, we'll see how receivers play and, how, what the game dictates they do. But, 3,200, I mean, that's an average of what per game, right? Let's see here. So 3,200, right? Yeah.
In my head.
That's 260 yards, 66 yards passing a game.
Hey, that's a respectable number. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a respectable number here. So I think this is possible. We'll just see. Yeah, we'll see. All time, who holds it?
I think somebody said recently it was Damian Craig. Let's
I think it might be Damian Craig. It's either Craig or Stidham because they're the only ones to break 3,000 yards, right? At Auburn in a single season. So it's got to be Craig or Stidham.
Yeah. Let's take a look. Somebody in the chat I'll let the chat look it up because you guys are always on top of this kind of stuff without me. So I'll let chat tell us who holds the current record for a single season. There was
Craig. 3,277.
There we go. Drake Barefoot. Thank you very much for that. Breakfoot. I just put his first and last name together for some reason. I don't know why. Let's see. There was another comment I saw here. Professor Vader said, did Freeze give reps to his third QB at Liberty? The answer to this was yes, but I don't think it was his intent. He had to go 4 deep into his quarterback room because of injury. He just had guys I think their starting quarterback got hurt like the first game of the season, right? And so they were on their second quarterback for the meat of the middle of the season, and then he got hurt, and they ended up having to go to starting their third quarterback against Arkansas, and then he got hurt, and they had to bring in the 4th string guy, right? So,
right.
Yeah, so he understands the necessity to prep guys, and this is the thing, and this is the thing you've said often, Mike G. So we'll say it again: if you are not the starting quarterback, it behooves you to just be ready. Because you don't know when you're going to get. And this is something we talked about this on the fireside. We've talked about this multiple times when we had conversations with TJ. The readiness of the backup quarterback is something that cannot be understated. And it's a problem when you've got guys who are in that position as the backup, but have not gotten themselves ready. And the coaching staff hasn't done an adequate job of getting them ready.
Right. Yeah, you got to be ready. You just have to be ready. And I'm, at this level, it really frustrates me when guys are not, because you're not going to get that many shots, right, to do this thing, man, at quarterback. You guys have heard me talk about TJ a lot lately and how frustrated I was with him not being ready for his moment, right? you can't make that mistake if you're these other guys. And even if you're Holden, man, like I said, life comes at a lot of people fast.
Listen,
So
Holden was number 3 on the depth chart last year and had to come in the
and
middle of the game.
it had to
Yeah.
play. Yeah. So it's gonna be. Yeah, I mean, stay ready, man. Just stay ready. You never know when you're gonna be called on.
Here's a question, and I think that this is an interesting what if. So shout out to our guys over at the College Loop. They do a thing called Theoretical Thursdays. I got a theoretical situation for you. Robbie Ashford is hurt during the Missouri game. Holden comes in actually ready to light it up, and he does really well. Does Holden see duty at some point in time later in the season, knowing what the health of Robbie Ashford's shoulder was? Do they feel more confident if he goes into the Missouri game and plays a little bit better because you remember Ole Miss, they pulled Robbie out of the game because he wasn't playing well. TJ was back at that point in time. He wasn't 100%. If Holden does a little bit better in Missouri, do you think that he gets an opportunity to jump back in there later? Or do you think that it looked like he was out there swimming, so they were like, we can't put you behind this offensive line. Let's figure something else out.
I think based on his own reaction when we brought it up on the fireside, they were like, oof, man, this is gonna be rough. This is not for you right now.
Right.
This is not your
and time. That's what I'm saying. But if he had come in ready to go ball out, does he get an opportunity to play a little bit more?
100%. And I don't know that he wasn't ready.
He may have thought he was ready, but there's a difference in thinking it and actually being in the moment where it's like, okay,
I think that was just a mess that he walked into. I don't think he wasn't. I don't think he wasn't ready. I think that he got thrown into the absolute worst situation possible with the worst play calling, and like everything was the worst for Holden when he took the field. Right. I can't realistically put any of that on him. I couldn't glean from that situation whether he was ready or not. Let me put it that way. But I didn't get a sense that he wasn't ready. I got a sense that was not his. Yeah, it was not time for his blessing. Yeah. All right. So hopefully Hugh Freeze creates more favorable situations for guys who have to come in the future.
Yeah.
Right. Or more things are in place and the line is in better shape and the play, you know what I mean? And they can truly just step in and play ball. That was a disaster. And I'd hate it if anybody I know some people privately who have judged Holden saying, oh, he's scared of the rush.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you judging that on? I don't think that's fair at all.
Yeah, I think that Holden was put into a very impossible scenario last year to be successful just because, again, he's not the most mobile of athletes. Now, he's got some mobility, but behind that offensive line and the way that they were performing and the way that plays were being called, all of that just didn't set up a quarterback for success or playing to their strengths at all. It was more so like square peg, round hole. Let's see if we can make this work. And it's like, it's not going to work, coach. We got to figure something else out. And they're like, but just run it better.
Right.
Execute the play better. The play works.
Yeah. No. Wow. Poor Holden, man. I'm such a fan of that kid. And I really hope that he gets, like I said, it's just, I don't know. When you become a better program, you have to get used to this, man. There's going to be somebody really talented that doesn't play.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it happens. Look what happened to Georgia's quarterback room a few years ago with Fromm and Eason.
I mean, look what's happening right now with their quarterback room. Right?
Yeah.
That quarterback room right now has a bunch of 4- and 5-star kids that they don't know will ever see the field.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's difficult. It's a difficult calculus if you ask me. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely see how this plays out with this quarterback room. I am anxiously awaiting game 1 versus UMass. We are a little over a week away. It's coming up, man. We only have a week and 4 days or 3 days, something like that, before we get to see this team kick off in Jordan-Hare Stadium week 1 against UMass. But we are out of here for today. But we will be back at you guys tomorrow. As always, thanks to the sponsors of the Morning Drop. That is rogueshop.com. Make sure you all visit Rogue Shop using code REPORT to get a little something off your purchase. That lets them know the guys at the War Report sent you as well. And if you have any anxiety about what's about to go down this season, the Rogue Shop's a place to go get you a little help with that. So whether it's sleep, stress, anxiety, pain relief, they have something that can fits whatever is ailing you or aid in whatever is ailing you. So head over to rogueshop.com using code rapport. We are out of here. We will be back at you all tonight with the midweek report, 7 p.m. Central Time, talking a little bit more about things that we have seen coming up and getting prepared for week 0 of college football. Until then, make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video with somebody else. We'll be back at you guys tonight. Until the next time. And as always, War Eagle. Peace.
Drive.